Hello, everybody. Back again so soon. And today we are going to talk about Walt Disney's second full-length feature film, Pinocchio. Released in 1940, the story is about a little wooden puppet who comes to life after his maker Geppetto wishes upon a star for him to become a real boy. The blue fairy comes and tells Pinocchio that he must prove himself brave, truthful, and unselfish, and someday he may be a real boy. And the story goes on to show Pinocchio on his journey to see how or if he will become a real boy. This is probably going to get really old really quick. I'm sorry, but this is another film I grew up with, hence this is why I'll be old. There's a lot of films we grew up with, so this is one of them. But I will say, out of all the Disney classics, this is my least favorite. It's not that the movie's good. It is a really good movie. It's wonderfully animated. It's wonderfully acted. I mean, Dickie Jones, who plays Pinocchio, is incredible as Pinocchio. And I just absolutely love this kid. He's just so cute. But, well, we'll get on to why I don't like it. But first, let's talk about the positives. One thing I want to point out is the animation. The animation here is top notch. As I stated in my Snow White video, they really did their homework and really bettered themselves when it came to this film. The documentary, if I watched correctly, which I watched last night, I believe one of the newer animators said that one of the original animators was really, embarrassed from watching the older work after this one, because they really did such an amazing job that the older stuff made them look like really silly, I guess. To me, I think that's selling it short, but I do get what they mean. It's top-notch animation. I especially noticed little details like the sparkles on the blue fairy. I mean, my gosh, for their second full-length film, it was beautiful. And the way she's animated, the dress is just absolutely gorgeous. The transformation between Pinocchio as a wooden puppet becoming real boy, well, a live puppet, we'll say. And, of course, there's the whole sea, the whole water. I think a lot of people will say that if you talk about the animation of this film, they mostly point out the ocean and the waves, which, again, really top-notch animation. It's amazing. Next, let's talk about the score. The score to this one, I'm not 100% sold on. The music in this is memorable, and I do have many of the songs from the soundtrack, but it's not altogether what I would go to if I'm in a Disney mood and I want to put on my music on my phone and go, let's listen to the score from Pinocchio. It's not one that I go to very much. I actually go to Bambi a lot more than I do this one. But it's still a good score. It's just, I don't know, it's not my personal favorite. Next, I want to talk about the characters. I absolutely love Pinocchio. I think he's really, really sweet. Yes, he does things that aren't good, but he's naive, and you really get behind him. Like, you don't hate him. You're kind of like, honey, don't do that. And what's interesting to me is I believe in the book, Pinocchio was actually a brat and very mean-spirited. So when they made this, they actually lightened the character. You hear the term a lot, they Disney-fied something, and you know what? I'm okay with that, because if we got a mean-spirited Pinocchio, I don't think anyone could get behind that, especially during that decade. You have to remember what decade the old Disney came from. And at the time, I think having a sweet boy was better than having a mean-spirited one. And we actually see that later on. Another thing I want to point out when it comes to the characters is Jiminy Cricket. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this. I'm so sorry. I'm not the biggest fan of Jiminy Cricket. It's not that he's bad. It's just I prefer other Disney sidekicks, considering Timothy Q. Mouse from Dumbo. In fact, I think he's underrated. I prefer Timothy Q. Mouse over Jiminy Cricket. But in the grand scheme of things, you could argue that Timothy Q is probably the blander one compared to Jiminy. Jiminy is a nice guy, but he does get angry. He does walk out on Pinocchio. So he has flaws that people can either relate to or go, okay, he's not perfect, and that's okay. Whereas Timothy Q. Mouse always sticks behind Dumbo. But I don't think that's wrong either. In the grand scheme of things, Jiminy Cricket is a good character. I'm not the biggest fan of him. But the two characters that get overlooked, in my opinion, that I want to talk about is Figaro the cat and the mouse, or not the mouse, I'm sorry, the fish, Cleo. They are so cool. I mean, Cleo doesn't really do much. She just kind of swims, but she's an elegant little fish. She's cute. And Figaro is just so adorable. I'm more of a dog person than a cat person, but I will admit, this is my favorite animated cat. He's just so cute. If there was a Figaro in real life, I probably would adopt him. Be like, hey, come on, Figaro, I'll totally come, take care of you and stuff, because he's just so cute. And of course, there's Geppetto. Great fatherly figure. Of course, you could look at him as more of a grandfatherly figure, but still, it's pretty cool. He's a nice guy. I love the Blue Fairy. I know she doesn't get much screen time, but I love her elegant voice, and I just think she's really sweet. Obviously, I am not the biggest fan of the villains. I know many people love the villains or like them. I don't. I'm not a villain person. Never liked villains. And I hate the fact that these guys don't get their comeuppance, but okay, I'll go into that in a little bit. So anyway, that's about as it for the characters as I'm going to get, I guess. Okay, I guess now I gotta talk about why I don't like this movie very much. So, in order to prepare for this review, I gave it a rewatch. And the watchability, again, it's good. It is a good movie. But I don't like it. I like it less than others because I feel it's too depressing. Now, that doesn't mean it's all depressing. No, absolutely not. There are some fun moments. There are some sweet moments, funny moments. There are some comedy in this that's funny. But I don't this is why I said I don't like the villains. So, when Pinocchio goes to school, we have Honest John, who's a fox, and he's followed by a cat named Gideon. Fun trivia, Mel Blanc did his voice, but then they ended up cutting his voice out because they just didn't want him to talk and they wanted him to be a mute. So the only thing we hear of Mel Blanc from that character is one single hiccup, which is kind of fun. But they pretty much hoodwinked Pinocchio into joining them to become an actor, where they then turn him over to the big Italian guy, Stromboli. And something I never noticed as a kid, but I noticed now, is they basically sold him to Stromboli. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's pretty dark. They basically kidnapped Pinocchio and sold him off to somebody, and poor Pinocchio don't know what's going on. Now, granted, he does escape, and it's like, okay, Stromboli still doesn't get his comeuppance because he basically was going to use him for money, and then if he ran out all of his career or whatever, he was going to kill him. So that's pretty dark. And but the biggest thing that throws me off of this movie is the Pleasure Island moment. And for those who don't know about this movie, for those who have not seen it, I recommend shutting this off because I'm going to get into spoiler territory. Granted, I've already been to spoiler territory, but this is going to be a big one. So, what happens is, after Pinocchio escapes from Stromboli, we're pointed to a scene where Honest John and Gideon are with a coachman, dead of night, and they're talking about their scheme and what they did and how happy they are that they made money. And the coachman offers twice the amount of money, actually probably more than that. And his plan is to take little boys that play hooky from school, the quote-unquote bad ones, and take them to Pleasure Island. The one thing I don't understand, but it's still a very creepy scene, is that he takes these kids to Pleasure Island, where they wreak havoc, they do what they want, but then later they're turned into donkeys. And it is the most depressing thing in a Disney movie of that time, in my opinion. The fact that we see some of the kids turn to donkeys don't talk anymore, therefore they're sold to like mines and stuff. The other ones that do talk, we don't know what happens to them. That's a dark thing altogether. And then you have the scene with Pinocchio then where he's with a boy named um, Lampwig. This is what I meant earlier by when we see a mean-spirited kid later. I didn't mean Pinocchio, I meant Lampwig. He's the embodiment of not caring about authority. He does what he wants. And granted, okay, maybe mean-spirited is a bit rough, but you get the general idea. He just doesn't care. And we see his transformation, and it's horrific. The way they animate Pinocchio, his terrified expression when Lampwig is turned into a donkey, and he doesn't talk when he turned into a donkey. He just brays, and it is horrific. It sends chills up my spine every time I watch it. It's hard to watch, but yet I can't look away from it. It's traumatizing, and to me, that is incredibly scary, considering that we have many issues nowadays of sex slavery and children being abducted left and right. This is very close to home of what's going on today. Granted, they're not being turned into donkeys, but they are being sold and taken away from their homes. And it's really depressing if you think about it that way. And so I said, this is one of those movies I can't watch on a regular basis just because I can't get that much enjoyment out of it. But that is basically the biggest gripe I have with the film. And the coachman is one that you want to get his comeuppance, and you never hear about him after that. So, yeah, that's mostly why this movie is very, very low on my list as favorite classics. Now, with all that being said, do I hate this movie? No. Like I said, it is a well-made movie. It is a good movie. There are some comedy moments in it that make me laugh. My favorite being when they're in the Monstro, the whale's belly, and the tuna comes in, and Geppetto is yelling at Figaro to keep the fish in the basket, and the tuna just goes up and starts smacking Figaro in the face. Hilarious. That makes me laugh every time. But like I said, it's not my favorite. If you like it, though, let me know in the comments below why you like it so much and why it ranks as one of your favorites. I'm generally interested in hearing that. I love it when people say, well, you may not like this classic, but I do. And I love that because I love being able to talk with other people about their favorite classics. So let me know in the comments below what you think of Pinocchio. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And I guess that'll be it for this video. So stay tuned for my next one when I will be discussing a personal favorite, Dumbo. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Have a great and wonderful day. Oh, and before I end this video, I want you guys to know I did end up changing my mind, and I did end up making an Instagram account for my author page. You can follow it down in the link below. It's Courtney Lynn Grace, but I will be putting it in the description, hopefully if I don't forget. And if you guys are interested, give me a follow there. And again, you can follow me on my public page, Courtney's Vintage Life. And I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye for now.